When it comes to exploring the love lives of animated characters, Hayley Smith from American Dad might seem like an open and shut case, right? I mean, everyone knows that her one true love is Jeff Fisher. I mean, Jeff has been in her life since the very first season. They then eloped together in season 6 and have remained married ever since. So, end of video, right? Not quite. Before they tied the knot, Hayley and Jeff were very on and off, giving her time to date other guys. And even after their marriage, things got even messier when he was abducted by aliens and was stuck in space for years. And so, with no sign of his return, Hayley had to figure out how to move on. So, let's unpack the wild, complicated love life of Hayley Smith and see if there were any other contenders for her true soulmate. And I guess to do this, we've got to start off at the very beginning with Jeff Fisher. Jeff's been around since the very first episode of American Dad.
Well, you know what Shakespeare said. I mean, I don't, but I'm sure you do. See ya.
And yeah, not exactly the kind of line that screams future husband, right? Upon first impression, Jeff just didn't seem like the kind of character that I imagined Hayley staying with for the long term, let alone marry. He just felt like one of those stoner idiot boyfriends that your dad hates before you settle down with someone a bit more mature. So who knew that he'd eventually grow into becoming one of the best, most well-rounded characters in the entire series? Jeff's role in the show was really solidified by the third episode, Stan Knows Best. This is where Hayley confirms to her family that Jeff is indeed her boyfriend.
Boyfriend? How can she be old enough to have a boyfriend? She still wets her bed.
However, when Jeff actually meets Hayley's parents, he seems to hit it off with them right away.
Isn't he sweet, Stan?
He sure is. Next time I'm out of Jolly Ranchers, I'm just gonna suck on Jeff.
But in reality, Stan thought he was too relaxed at dinner, and so literally got the CIA to abduct Hayley from Jeff's party and drag her back home.
Jeff was much too relaxed at dinner. He had the laid-back attitude of a stone man.
This obviously pisses Hayley off, encouraging her to move out and therefore move in with Jeff in his van.
My mom had me right where you're sitting.
It's here where Hayley starts second-guessing her decision. Not only does Jeff live in a van, but it's a busted one, breaking down immediately and destroying any chance of a romantic road trip. So with no help from her parents and no real stability from Jeff, Hayley takes matters into her own hands and starts stripping to make ends meet. When Stan finds out, he is furious, and despite being the complete opposite to each other, Jeff and Stan both agree that Hayley just shouldn't be stripping. But Jeff's reasoning comes from the fact that he has dated 3 strippers in his past, and 2 of them wound up dead.
And the cops always go to the boyfriend with the van. That's profiling, man, and that's wrong.
Although this does make me wonder, was it really a coincidence that they both ended up dead, or is something a bit more sinister going on with Jeff? But yeah, putting Jeff potentially being a serial killer aside, he and Stan team up to raid the strip joint and get her the hell out of there. But things are still tense between them until Francine steps in. She convinces Stan that instead of tearing Hayley down, they need to support her and trust her decisions.
Look, I've been treating you like a little girl and, well, you're a grown woman. You made that abundantly clear halfway through that Jay-Z song.
And it's after this that Hayley decides to move back in with her parents.
All right, you have visual? All right, stay 3 car lengths behind her and check in with me every half hour.
In these early season 1 episodes, we can definitely tell that Jeff and Hayley have plenty in common. But Hayley is definitely the more mature and responsible one. For example, in the next episode, Francine's flashback, Jeff wants to go to Burning Man, which is something that Hayley finds absolutely ridiculous and a waste of time. Then Francine, after getting her memory wiped and reverting back to her 80s wild self, decides to take Jeff to Burning Man instead.
My mother stole my boyfriend!
Your boyfriend stole my wife. Let's get back at them by dating each other. Wait a minute.
And this could have been super awkward if Francine had a thing for Jeff. But it turns out that he only went to get Hayley's attention.
Did it work?
Did it ever?
This moment gives us another interesting look at Jeff and Hayley's early dynamic. Jeff does something to annoy Hayley, but somehow it ends up working in his favor. At least for the short term, because soon enough, things take a very rocky turn. In the 8th episode, Bullock's to Stan, Hayley takes Jeff on a breakup hike. She breaks things off with him because he always agrees with her and never challenges her.
But I can change.
No, you can't.
You're right. Let's get married.
Goodbye, Jeff.
But Hayley's not single for long as she starts a fling with someone absolutely no one saw coming. Her dad's CIA boss, Avery Bullock. Not only does this romance seem outlandish because of their massive age gap, but also because Bullock is the head of a large government institution like the CIA, which totally goes against Hayley's anti-establishment ideology.
As a cockroach, you'll actually survive the nuclear war you're working so hard to incite.
Stan naturally isn't very thrilled about his young daughter and his boss shacking up together, but he bites his tongue because he's gunning for a promotion and doesn't want to risk upsetting Avery. Hayley explains that she and Avery hit it off after going out for coffee and she likes him because he actually challenges her. Oh yeah, and also because he has a huge
Penis! Damn it! I was trying to cut you off before you said—
I was gonna say heart, but, well, you shined his shoes.
As much as Stan wants this relationship to end, he also doesn't want to sabotage his career either. So he comes up with a plan to toughen Jeff up and eventually win Hayley back. Surprisingly, Stan's plan works, and she breaks things off with Avery, reconciles with Jeff, and Stan even gets his promotion. So everything should be fine, right? Well, not quite. Let's just say that Bullock doesn't take it too well.
Don't do this to me! I'll die without you!
It's hilarious how this 70-year-old man who's in charge of this huge government agency still acts like a poor little heartbroken boy. Avery goes after Jeff with the intent to murder him, but Jeff manages to escape by fleeing in a car. Stan and Bullock, however, aren't too far behind, tracking him down to a diner where they also run into Hayley. And things really come to a boiling point when Bullock calls Hayley a
filthy cheap slut.
Now, this is the final straw for Stan, and he finally stands up to his boss. Stan and Bullock square off in a fight, and it's clear that Bullock is outmatched, and so in a desperate move, Bullock claims the whole ordeal was just a setup to test Stan's loyalty and see if he'd stand up to him. It's obvious that he's making this up on the spot to avoid getting killed, but it's enough to de-escalate things.
You see, I staged this elaborate ruse just to test you.
So everyone gets out alive, Stan gets his promotion, and Hayley and Jeff are back together again. But the bigger takeaway is that Jeff actually grows into this more assertive, self-assured guy that both Stan and Hayley really wanted him to be.
I don't know what's gotten into him, but he's suddenly so strong and primal, like a caveman. I wonder if he'll hit me.
Jesus, Hayley, you've really got some issues you need to sort out. As for Hayley and Bullock's brief relationship, it's hard to imagine it ever lasting longer than it did. There is their massive age gap difference, of course, and Bullock's demanding career at the CIA, and their polar opposite political beliefs, which would have inevitably caused some problems. Those ideological clashes were already apparent at the start of the episode, and her attraction to Bullock may really derive from her deep-rooted daddy issues, which is something I'll definitely be breaking down later on in the video. That said, it could have been interesting if their relationship had encouraged one of them to rethink their worldview. Maybe Bullock could have influenced Hayley to see some kind of value in government institutions, or Hayley encouraging Bullock to embrace a more anti-establishment mindset. But, ah well, we don't really like them together anyway. While this episode does definitely focus more on Stan trying to balance his loyalty to his boss and his duty as a father, it also gives us a deeper look into Hayley's personality. She's drawn to people who push her out of her comfort zone, who think differently, and who challenge her. What's also interesting is that it's very clear that the producers wanted to have their cake and eat it too when it came to Hayley. They wanted stories where she and Jeff were an item, but they also wanted to tell stories about Hayley's dating life outside of him too. Because even though they got back together by the end of the episode, that doesn't stop her from exploring other relationships, like when the Smiths were relocated to Saudi Arabia. In the first of this two-part special, Stan of Arabia, Stan totally ruins his boss's big roast. So a furious Bullock exiles Stan and his family to Saudi Arabia. But while this may seem like a punishment to most, it's a dream come true for Stan, who absolutely loves the male-dominated culture. Hayley, however, can't even leave the house without being escorted by a man. So when she gets a date with the neighbour's son Mahmood, she has to ask Steve to play chaperone. Hayley hopes dating someone from a different culture might mean that she can finally escape the typical immature American frat guy kinda guy, but Mahmood quickly proves that the frat boy energy is universal.
Whatever happened with Ross and Rachel? That Jennifer Aniston swing? Yes?
Predictably, Hayley dumps him and winds up getting chased by the morality police. But part 2 opens with her being rescued by a mysterious, handsome stranger called Kazim, who poses as her brother, swoops in, and saves the day. The two hit it off immediately, bonding over their shared disdain for America's flaws.
Your gluttony and greed make me sick.
You are so hot.
But things take a dark turn when Kazim reveals that he's actually a member of Al-Qaeda and plans to bomb the US embassy. Hayley, of course, tries to stop him and tries to convince him to rethink his choices, and their romance blossoms as a result. But when she wakes up from a nap, she finds him gone, leaving behind a letter explaining that while he does love her, he must fulfill his destiny. Determined to stop him, Hayley rushes to the US embassy, only to discover that Kazim's biggest mission was working at a Shawarma King stand.
Let me guess. He tricked you into thinking he was a terrorist so you'd have sex with him.
He does that with all the American girls.
As punishment for her actions, Hayley was buried up to her neck alongside the rest of the Smith family to be stoned. Thankfully, Roger's powerful new husband intervened just in time, securing their freedom and their journey back to America. For Hayley, Saudi Arabia was already bad enough, with her independence being severely limited, but getting seduced and lied to by Kazim made it oh so much worse. At first, it seems like her love would transform the brooding, morally conflicted man into a better person. Instead, it was all just a cheap con to get into her pants. It's safe to say that Hayley is so much better off without Kazim. But yes, moving on, when the Smiths return to America, Hayley gets back together with Jeff. And they stick it out for the rest of season 1, but things don't stay smooth for long, because in season 2's Dungeons and Wagons, Hayley ends things with Jeff again, this time because he's way too clingy and smothering her.
I can't believe you're doing this over the phone.
Goodbye, Jeff.
Hayley, wait! She hung up.
Devastated, Jeff finds a surprising escape by joining Steve and his friends in an online fantasy game. He gets so hooked on it that he quickly forgets all about Hayley, and she definitely notices.
Jeff? Hello? Woman you worship talking.
As much as Hayley didn't like Jeff smothering her, she just can't stand that he's now pouring all of his attention into Steve and an online fantasy game. So determined to win him back, she decides the best way to get his attention is by taking down Steve's character, Agathor. But her plan completely backfires because instead of impressing Jeff, he finds her actions cruel and heartless, given how much the game really means to both Steve and him. So realizing her mistake, Hayley teams up with Jeff to bring Agathor back to life, and they battle through obstacles, slay monsters, and retrieve the resurrection amulet. Their successful quest not only revives Agathor, but also reminds Jeff just how well him and Hayley work together, making him ready to patch things up. But unfortunately for him, Hayley's time in the game also led her to meet someone else.
Remember that tavern and you went to the bathroom? It just kind of happened.
So yeah, it is definitely a bummer that they remain separated by the end of this episode, but at least we did get a bit of a glimpse into how strong they can be when they're working towards a common goal. It's a dynamic that will prove useful to them in the future. However, they do reunite a few episodes later through an off-screen reconciliation, and once again we see that Hayley is wearing the pants in the relationship.
Can I come out of the pantry now, babe?
I said I'll get you when I'm ready!
This is also the point where things are starting to get a bit more serious between them, because in season 2's joint custody, Hayley actually starts talking about the idea of marriage for the first time.
We might even get married one day, so you might as well get used to him.
Married? Oh, babe!
Which is a pretty big step, considering she's such a free spirit and someone we'd normally expect to rebel against the social norm of marriage. But this is the very idea that's explored in season 3's Hayleyus. Here she breaks up with Jeff yet again due to a series of nightmares about her childhood, seeing them as a warning to not give in to society's pressures about marriage and having kids.
I'm gonna live a carefree life with a string of lovers. Jean-Jacques, Henri, Simone.
But little did she know that those nightmares were actually childhood memories from when Stan brainwashed her into being a CIA sleeper agent. So when Hayley tells Stan that she's going to live a carefree life in France, he activates her secret agent mode, and now obedient, Stan orders her to get married and have kids with a son of a senator called Dill. And he's a guy who definitely isn't interested in women.
Where I feasted on the sweet, sticky nectar of life.
But what Stan didn't know is that after 7 days, the agent is programmed to kill their handler. So Hayley shoots Stan, who's dead for almost 6 minutes, and don't worry, he does get better, and Hayley gets her freedom back. And presumably Hayley and Jeff get back together again in season 4, because in pulling double booty, they're a couple again, only to break up yet again. God, what is this, like their fourth breakup now? Jesus. But this time, it's Jeff who dumps Hayley.
Why the hell did you break up with Hayley?
I don't know. It wasn't just one thing, Mr. S. It was like two things.
You see, Hayley's issues with rejection goes all the way back to her childhood, as we see in a flashback where she wrecked her classroom after a boy liked and flirted with the new girl in school. And seeing how getting into another relationship could lead her into getting dumped again and becoming a danger to herself and to those around her, Stan micromanages her potential dates, making sure that there's absolutely zero chance of them ever breaking up with her.
I can date whoever I want.
Actually, you can't.
This of course enrages Hayley, and she storms into the CIA headquarters to dump her father's lunch on him. But just a little while later, Francine stumbles upon a shocking sight: Hayley and her dad making out on her bed. Thankfully, it just turns out that it's not really her real father. It's his body double, Bill, who looks just like him, except with a southern accent.
That's why I'm the best damn body double at the CIA.
We'll bring that body over here, on the double.
Hayley explained to her parents that after dumping lunch on who she thought was Stan, she realised that it was actually Bill, and they started talking and found out that they had a lot in common. And as off-putting as the relationship to literally everyone else is, Stan actually approves. He figures the perfect partner for Hayley to keep her stable is someone just like him. But yeah, it's still pretty gross, and Francine vomits every time they kiss. And I don't blame her. It's weird. Fast forward a few weeks and things are going very well between Hayley and Bill. That is until Stan mentions to his body double how hot his wife Francine is. This inspires Bill to try and seduce Francine by pretending to be Stan. Of course, Bill is caught in the act by Stan and is promptly tossed out of the house. But now Stan and Francine are in a bit of a pickle. They know that if Bill was revealed to be a cheating scumbag, Hayley would go nuclear. So Stan comes up with a plan. He'll disguise himself as Bill for a weekend getaway with Hayley, be a total jerk to her, and make her want to break up with him. However, Hayley thinks the getaway is all about getting some action with her boyfriend, something Stan definitely doesn't want to do.
Doing it. Should we break for lunch? Nope, let's keep doing it.
Stan tries his best at being a terrible boyfriend, but Hayley isn't taking the hint, and he's so desperate that he winds up taking her on a hike to the woods and considers leaving her there, until she tells Bill that she loves him.
Well, I...
You can't say it, can you? Ugh, you're just like my dad.
This frustrates Hayley, believing neither Bill nor her own father can express their love for her, so Stan seizes the moment to explain how much he truly loves her, pointing out all of the small things he's done for her over the years.
He loves you. He loves you a ton. Trust me.
Wow.
Hayley appreciates the revelation and wants to call her dad, but Stan, still in disguise as Bill, stops her by telling her that he's breaking up with her. Hayley takes it surprisingly well, and it's at this very moment that Stan realises the source of her intense anger at rejection is the lack of love and affection from him as a father. But despite this breakthrough, Hayley still calls Stan, and when she hears his phone ring right in front of her, the truth clicks, and this triggers a long-awaited Hayley meltdown. So yeah, there is a lot to unpack here, not only about Hayley and Bill's relationship, but also hers and Stan's. The elephant in the room is Bill's uncanny resemblance to Stan, and since we learned that the source of Hayley's unhinged rage at rejection is from the lack of affection from Stan, I think we can all connect the dots here and say that Hayley was willing to go out with Bill partially because she was looking for affection from a father figure, seeing as she couldn't get it from her own, hence why she also had a fling with Avery Bullock. In summary, Hayley's got severe daddy issues. And as much as they had in common, the fact that Bill was willing to do something crappy like sleep with Francine means that Hayley is far better off without him. But there was one good thing that came from this relationship. It was her learning that her father truly loves her. And so this marks as the final episode where Hayley dates a father figure. But yeah, where do we go from daddy issues? Let's go to animal issues. As I've explored in my deep dive video all about him, Reginald Koala is one of American Dad's greatest mysteries.
Now he's a koala and he's cute as a button.
This is because he pretty much disappears from around season 6, but what's interesting about Reginald's heyday is that most of his storylines involved his relationship with Hayley. I mean, in his very first appearance, he's already flirting with her.
Hey girl, I know you hear me.
What?
Easy, baby. I'm just a squirrel trying to get a nut.
Based on Hayley's expressions, you can definitely tell that she wasn't interested in him at all, and you can't blame her. He's a freaking koala. And yeah, I know he's cute as a button, but koalas also have a very huge chlamydia problem. Anyway, a season later, Reginald attempts to spark up a friendship, but Hayley still isn't interested. And it also doesn't help that he accidentally shrunk her dress in the dryer.
She hate me, like the deserts hate the rain.
A week later, Reginald tries to make things right by inviting her to a Shaggy concert at the Langley County Fair. She reluctantly agrees, but when a drunk guy spills beer on her shirt, Reginald stands up for her, and is here where she starts to warm up to him.
No one's ever stood up for me like that before.
No? Well, it's not easy to beat down a fool and still look.
Their chemistry builds throughout the day, and after a little wine, Hayley tries to kiss him, but Reginald stops her, saying that he's already seeing someone.
But I want you to know 2 things. I sleep with my door unlocked, and this just happened.
In the same episode, we also find out that Hayley has a boyfriend called Ian. Anyway, their story continues in the very next episode where Hayley apologizes to Reggie for trying to kiss him, and they agree to just be friends. Hayley even suggests going on a double date with their significant others. However, once the 2 couples go out together, it becomes very clear that they still have some very strong feelings for each other.
Oh, got your napkin. Hope you don't order finger foods.
Well, if I do, I'll just wipe my hands on your fur.
This is why it's not so surprising when we hear that in the next scene, Reginald and Rhonda broke up, followed by Hayley revealing that she also broke up with Ian.
Hello, Ian? Listen, I want to break up.
Just 2 episodes later, in season 5's Bully for Steve, Reginald finally asks Hayley out on an official date, and she gladly accepts. So now it looks like we're finally going to see how it works out between these two, right? I mean, it's what these past episodes have been building up to. They aren't just going to instantly drop it, right?
Hayley?
Yeah, that's right. Just when it looks like sparks are about to fly between Reggie and Hayley, bloody Jeff pops in and pops his bubble. And both Hayley and Jeff start to hit it off again. And to Reggie's credit, he lets them hang out together and catch up, but he's still definitely not happy about the situation.
Upstaged by a wily-ass hippie.
The next day, Reggie asks Hayley out on another date, but she admits that seeing Jeff brought up some old feelings and she needs some time alone to think things through. This love triangle doesn't pick up again until season 6's premiere 100 AD. Here we find out that Hayley isn't ready to date anyone at the moment. Meanwhile, the koala is very busy being Avery Bullock's chauffeur. And while out driving, he spots Jeff pining over Hayley and offers him some sage advice.
Alright, I guess I could give Hayley her space.
My man, now go take a shower. You smell like cheap weed and applesauce.
However, Jeff took the complete opposite approach and confronted Hayley again. And miraculously, things worked out between them and suddenly they're ready to get married.
I realized I'm still in love with Jeff Fisher, which is why we've decided to elope.
Naturally, Hayley's parents aren't too thrilled about this, and Stan offers $50,000 to anyone in town who can stop the wedding. Reggie hears the announcement on the radio and is motivated to stop the elopement. But when Reggie tells Bullock that he's going to go after the woman of his dreams, Bullock starts reminiscing about his own time with Hayley.
I took a detour on Hayley, got lost in the brush and went down a dirt road.
This pisses him off to the point where he parks the limo and is ready to throw fists. They beat the absolute crap out of each other before falling off a cliff and surviving. And just when you think Avery is ready to apologize, he instead makes an even more graphic comment about what he did with Hayley.
I'm gonna call your mama and tell her what you said.
Don't.
By this point, Reginald seemed more focused on getting back at Bullock than winning over Hayley, and so it was after this fight which basically marked the end of his relationship with her. So there's no follow-up scene of Reggie confronting Hayley and no scene of him trying to talk her out of getting married. In fact, I couldn't find a single episode after this that includes any interaction between them at all. But I feel this is more of a symptom of American Dad simply forgetting about the character of Reggie entirely, rather than forcibly splitting them apart. To sum up, Reggie's and Hayley's potential relationship was teased in season 4 and was built up over multiple episodes in season 5. And as much as they seem to have liked each other, we'll never really know how good of a couple they could have really been. And although opinions on Reggie are mixed, I think most would agree that we were owed at least one more scene between them. At least so we can make peace with the fact that they just aren't meant to be together. Like similarly to how Brian Griffin made peace with ex-girlfriend Gillian right before she got married. I don't know, it just kind of felt all pointless to me. This is especially after all we had invested in that time in this potential relationship, no matter how weird it could have been. Anyway, let's forget about Reggie just like the writers and get back to Jeff and Hayley. So when the two run away together to get married, Hayley leaves behind a letter for her parents to explain that she still loves Jeff and that they've decided to elope.
When you proposed, it's like my heart started up again.
Personally, I never liked how sudden this was. They weren't even a couple by this point, and it just seemed to kind of come from nowhere. However, I should also mention that this episode was slightly retconned in season 17's Please Please Jeff. In that episode, we're told that it was actually Hayley's idea to get married, and Jeff, being the people pleaser that he is, just said yes to be nice.
You proposed to me. I thought you wanted...
I was talking about where we're eating, not our whole f***ing marriage! I can't believe you only married me because I asked you to.
This adds another layer to their relationship, suggesting that Hayley might have been the one to be more invested in the idea of marriage than Jeff was initially. But back to this episode though, and since neither of them have a steady income, they con Stan and Francine into getting the $50,000 worth of reward money. And with it, they literally fly off into the sunset to start their new life together. Or so we thought, because they end up blowing through the money in later episodes, mostly on schemes to escape Roger.
You think I'm gonna give you the money to get you to stop making that noise?
Wait, where did it all go?
We spent it trying to get away from you, you dumbass.
Oh.
And this failure ultimately means that they have to move back into the Smith household.
After we ran out of money, Jeff suggested that we prostitute ourselves. At first, Jeff was saying he was only gonna do women, but then...
For as impulsive and unconventional Hayley and Jeff are, living out a simple fairy tale ending was never going to be on the cards. Instead, their relationship thrives on chaos. And just like that, in season 6's I Am the Walrus, Jeff and Hayley are already bickering over tiny things, like furniture.
They say the honeymoon phase is the hardest part.
No one says that.
They decide to seek out marriage counselling, but the only type that they can afford is from Principal Lewis at his house. And instead of helping them talk through their issues, Lewis forces them to clean at gunpoint.
This isn't real.
It just got real, bitch. Now clean my house.
When it becomes clear that Lewis isn't going to set them free, the couple hatch a plan to slip him some pills so they can escape. Unfortunately, Lewis finds them back at home and it looks like he's about to shoot them. Instead, he reveals that making himself their common enemy was his twisted way of solving their marital issues. And as insane as this method was, it worked, and Hayley and Jeff's marriage stayed very solid throughout season 6 and 7. It wouldn't be until season 8, Naked to the Limit one more time, where things would get rocky again. Here Jeff is abducted by aliens after accidentally discovering Roger's true identity, and Roger, in typical fashion, selfishly pushes Jeff under the UFO beam that was intended for him.
Come here, honey.
So Jeff is whisked away to the far side of the galaxy, leaving Hayley all alone, unsure if she'll ever see her husband ever again. But we'll get back to Jeff's space adventures later on in the video, but for now, let's stay on Earth with Hayley. With her husband out of the picture and out of the solar system, Hayley is left all alone, and as far as she knows, she'll never see Jeff again, so Hayley starts dating again, more specifically, Snot. But let's back this up a bit. Snot is Steve Smith's best friend, and like many young boys, he always had a crush on his best friend's older sister, a crush that was very clear in season 5's Merlot Down Dirty Shame. In that episode, Hayley and Klaus prank Steve into thinking that he's lucid dreaming, where he can do whatever he wants, like getting Hayley to call up Snot on a date.
Hello?
Hi, it's Hayley. Will you go out with me?
Oh my god, yes! Oh my god, oh my god, oh my...
But by the end of the episode, we see that Snot is all dressed up, freshly shaved, still believing that he has a real date with her.
No.
But that wasn't the biggest romantic gesture Snot ever made to Hayley, as just one season later, he openly declares his love for her, despite the fact that she just married Jeff in that same season.
What do you say now, my love?
Go away.
However, Snot was just playing a long game, because in season 8's The Missing Kink, his wildest dreams came true in that he and Hayley became a legitimate couple. So how did this happen? Basically, Hayley went on 12 disastrous dates in a row after Jeff got abducted, and by this point, she'd already sworn off men entirely. So Snot saw this as the golden opportunity, because if she's done with men, why not give wimpy teenagers a chance?
Care to grab a slice of pizza with me tomorrow night?
Sure, Snot. Whatever.
To Snot's surprise and everyone else watching this episode, their date went surprisingly well. Hayley admits she wasn't excited about it at first, but wound up having a really great time and is even up for more dates. And this should be a dream come true for Snot, right? He's finally dating the love of his life.
Yeah, I'm not really into it.
Yep, that's right. Just as Hayley starts showing an interest in Snot, he loses his. Basically, a textbook case of the chase being better than the catch. Luckily, Steve intervenes, asking him to end it in a way that won't crush Hayley's already fragile emotional state. Therefore, Snot comes up with a fake story for Hayley, claiming that he's gay and in a rather intimate relationship with his friend Barry.
As long as you're happy, I'm happy for you.
And even though this entire story is a lie, Snot manages to end the relationship on good terms without hurting anyone's feelings. Well, almost no one.
I'm such an idiot.
Now, the elephant in the room here with this brief relationship is that Hayley is a 19-year-old adult woman, while Snot is 14. The 5-year age difference is nothing when both people are adults, but when one is a teenager and one is an adult, it's very, very creepy. And sorry Hayley, I love you, but I gotta call out your messed up actions here. Saying that though, we could assume that Hayley never would have dated Snot if she wasn't so emotionally vulnerable after losing Jeff. Even so, it's still gross. We'll never really know how the relationship would have played out since it ended almost as soon as it began, and it is possible this is because the showrunners recognised the problematic aspects of their age difference and so decided to avoid the situation altogether, which is probably a good move. So after going out with Snot, Hayley decides to get into a more age-appropriate relationship with a man called Mauricio. This is in season 9's Pgasm, though what they have is more casual than anything really serious. And this particular episode takes a rather awkward turn when Francine starts feeling unsatisfied with her romantic life with Stan, and she gets a little too interested in what her daughter and new guy are doing.
Is she eating mozzarella like it's an apple?
However, Hayley's fun time with Mauricio is all over when the mysterious spirits of the Smith household suck him into a vortex.
Is anyone else still seeing his junk when they close their eyes?
Yep.
If I had a nickel for every time Hayley lost a boyfriend to some weird otherworldly event, I'd have, well, 2 nickels. Which isn't a lot, but it is strange that it's happened twice. To break this madness down, the entity that took Mauricio was born from Francine's sexual frustration, a poltergasm if you wish. And when Francine saw all the action that Hayley and Mauricio were getting up to, she got jealous, repressed, and so created this ghostly apparition. So in a weird twist of fate, Mauricio was so good in bed that he triggered a literal ghost. Now that's impressive. And so Zelda Stein concludes that the spirit will only set Mauricio free if Francine herself can be sexually satisfied. So the family, in all their awkward wisdom, decides to coach Stan on how to perform better in bed with Francine. Thankfully, with the house literally caving in around them, Stan and Francine manage to rekindle their hot sex life. And just like that, Mauricio is set free from the void.
I'm free!
He was presumably killed on impact, and we don't even get to see Hayley's reaction to losing him. But since it was established that they were more benefits than friends, I think Hayley had a much easier time getting over him than, say, Jeff. What her time with Mauricio showed was that Hayley was capable of hooking up with other guys during the time that Jeff was stuck in space. It did take her a long time to get her groove back during season 8, hence why she settled on dating Snot, but at the start of season 9 she showed that she still had it. And while she wasn't looking for love again, she was looking for a fun time. And casual sex is one thing, but what Hayley and Jeff had was the real deal. There's no replacing that. And on the 1-year anniversary of Jeff being abducted by aliens, Hayley is found moping and depressed in her bedroom. So Stan comes up with the idea to smoke out her room, which ends up setting the entire house on fire and landing her in hospital. But this accident turns out to be a blessing in disguise because it's here where she meets a handsome janitor called Millionaire Matt Davis.
Is that your real name?
Yeah, my mom had high hopes for me, and I exceeded them by 380 million.
He may have worked as a janitor on this particular day, but he has more than enough money to do whatever he wants, and he likes trying different things every single day to get basically new experiences. Hayley seemed to have struck gold with millionaire Matt Davis, who appeared to be the perfect guy to help her forget all about Jeff. He was charming, adventurous, and could afford anything that she could imagine. But just when things were looking up, Steve showed Hayley the old CB radio. It revealed that he made contact with Jeff while he was floating through space. As soon as she learned that Jeff was out there and looking for her, she became super obsessed with communicating with him through the radio, gradually neglecting Matt's calls and growing distant from him. And it seemed that once again, Hayley's potential romance with someone else had been sidelined by her lingering feelings for Jeff, much like with Reginald Koala. The real issue, however, was that Jeff was so far away in space and no one knew even if he could ever make it back. And as time passed, Hayley began to lose hope, so she reluctantly agreed to go out for dinner with Matt, who had a whole year of adventures planned for her. She was ready to move on, but when Jeff informed her that he had found a wormhole to get back home, Hayley's faith in him was restored. Little did she know, though, that even though the wormhole did get Jeff home, it would be 60 years into the future.
I knew you'd come. Oh, it's been 60 years, but you're finally home.
Upon arrival, Jeff is greeted by Stan, but now in an ape's body. He tells him that Hayley was supposed to marry Matt Davis instead of waiting all those decades. And sadly, Hayley suffers a heart attack.
I didn't think you were ever gonna come back!
And even with his massive wealth, Davis continued to work at the hospital for 60 years because he was trying to relive the best day of his life, aka the one where he met Hayley. This makes Jeff realize that it's not fair to make Hayley waste 60 years of her life waiting, so he decides to go back to the past and set Hayley free. And finally, Hayley doesn't have to wait anymore and can finally be with millionaire Matt Davis. So, happy ending, right? Well, this is American Dad, so nah.
You gotta hide me. I just married a black chick with 2 kids and then I killed her.
You ready to go to Fiji?
No witnesses!
Well, that's pretty brutal. Overall, as much as Jeff is the love of her life, you can't help but think, what if Matt had lived? He seemed to be the perfect match for Hayley, even her dad loved him. And with Jeff's blessing, it felt like they were really meant to be. Aside from Jeff, I feel that Matt definitely had the most potential with Hayley. They could have been very happy together. But sadly, he just wound up being another one of Roger's casualties. So after the killing of her past 2 boyfriends, maybe it's 3rd boyfriend lucky. In season 10's My Fair Lady, Hayley lands a new office job and is here where she meets a hotshot called Axe Jenkins. And Roger, in his persona of life coach Arbuckle T. Boone, encourages her to ask him out. And when the boss announces a company trip to Belize, it seems like the perfect time for her and Axe to bond. Sparks seem to fly between them until her new co-worker Mary drops the bombshell that Axe is already married. So Hayley's plans to ask him out were dropped, but Roger was very insistent that she still went for it.
Arbuckle here, so what if he's married? Lots of us are married. You're married. All the good ones are married. Haven't you heard that?
And Hayley, already feeling disconnected from her husband Jeff, begins to consider starting an affair. By the end of the day, Hayley can't resist and visits Axe's hotel room. And just when it looks like they're about to get it on, Axe takes off his robe, unveiling his tattoo.
Yeah, that's my wife. Don't worry, the way I have sex, you won't be seeing her much.
This revelation obviously throws cold water on Hayley and Axe's budding affair, and when she confronts Roger about it, he explains that he married Axe as Rosalind and orchestrated the entire affair to catch him cheating. Basically, this was one long con to take his money in a divorce. And it's here where Hayley exposes Roger's scheme once and for all.
She really perks up once you get her out of the iron lung.
Stop! You'll kill her!
And that's the last we see of Axe Jenkins.
He's my ride.
He?
Once again, another potential relationship for Hayley that fails to get off the ground. And as much as we know that Jeff is her one true love, when he's out of the picture, it would be nice to see Hayley at least happy with someone else, even if it is for at least a few episodes. Axe may have not been the greatest guy for wanting to go behind his wife's back and have an affair, but also knowing that it was all part of Roger's grand plan, you kinda can't blame him. After all, there did seem to be some kind of genuine chemistry between them before the whole Rosalind-Roger thing entered the picture. While all of this drama has been unfolding on Earth, Jeff has been stuck in the far reaches of space, and his journey takes him to a giant space mall ruled by an eccentric and tyrannical Emperor Zing. And desperate to get home, Jeff pleads with Zing, but the Emperor informs him that he'll only be allowed to leave if he can prove that his relationship was really built on true love, which is something that Zing strongly disbelieves in. To test Jeff's claim, the majestic creature, one of Zing's minions, enters Jeff's mind and begins showing him the low points of his relationship with Hayley. And through this series of painful flashbacks, Jeff starts to question whether there was any real love between him and Hayley at all.
I thought I loved her, but those memories, they all happened.
This moment right here has to be one of my favourite moments in the entire show. Set to the song Majestic by Wax Fang, you can really see how much Jeff misses Hayley, but more importantly, he starts to realise that he wasn't always the best for her and took her for granted. And honestly, this was the moment where I really started to actually like Jeff, because it showed a deeper, more vulnerable side to him. American Dad as a whole just does a much better job of developing its characters than Family Guy. This revelation shakes Jeff to his core, leaving him doubting the foundation of his entire relationship. Despite this though, Jeff sneaks down to the Majestic's lair to confront him. The Majestic confesses that the root of Zing's hatred of love comes from his own personal betrayal, as he was once cheated on by none other than
Roger.
Oh my god, okay, wow, can we please be grown-ups about this? Because I can't.
They begin showing the good memories of love, not just between Jeff and Hayley, but also everyone else too.
The Emperor's been lying to you all! True love does exist!
This allows Jeff to escape and make his way back to Hayley, and in Jeff's bag, Jeff is, well, back.
Francine, honey, can you bring me my gun?
Jeff, don't go anywhere.
However, Jeff isn't acting quite like himself because he's really an alien in disguise.
These simple-minded earthlings suspect nothing.
Because, you know, nothing can ever be simple in American Dad. Roger knows that Jeff is fake, and he and Hayley try to find out where the imposter came from. And to her horror, they discover Jeff's body, which was dissected, chopped apart, and stored by alien collectors. But the creature, still disguised as Jeff, has a change of heart, and through the time spent with the Smiths and learning what it means to be a human, the imposter decides to save Hayley and Roger from certain death. He then offers to have Jeff's brain implanted into his head, giving Hayley the chance to have the real Jeff back after all. And after all that, Jeff and Hayley are truly reunited at last.
I love you.
I love you too, babe.
But there's one last big step that Hayley and Jeff need to do in order to fully undo the damage caused by his space adventure. In season 12's Roger's Baby, for them to have kids, Jeff's body must become human again, instead of being an alien. And the only way for this to happen is for an alien to consume Jeff's brain and give birth to a fully formed human version of him. And of course, it's Roger who reluctantly agrees to carry out this bizarre task.
My mouth is super juicy for this very purpose.
I guess Roger going through the process of being pregnant and giving birth to Jeff is enough to make up for the fact that he pushed Jeff into the UFO beam, right? Maybe? Even though they were apart for several seasons, I think that this time that Jeff spent in space was when their love was truly at its strongest. Hayley never truly gave up on him. She only reluctantly moved on because he told her to. And Jeff never gave up on returning to her. Now, while Hayley has remained faithful to Jeff since his return from space, the two of them have agreed that they can have one celebrity freebie, and at the top of Hayley's list is the world-famous singer-songwriter known as The Weeknd. And as luck would have it, he ends up at the Smith family dinner table thanks to a kidnapping orchestrated by Stan in season 15's A Star Boy Is Born. And while Stan did this to teach Roger a lesson about following rules, Hayley is very eager to capitalize on this golden opportunity.
Some of that lasagna got on my pants. I'd better take them off and stand in my underwear in front of The Weeknd.
And while that attempt didn't work out, she continued to try her luck. And even Jeff tries to help.
Are you sure you'll be okay if I sleep with The Weeknd?
When you sleep with The Weeknd.
But when he refuses her advances again, he confesses that he's still a virgin and is waiting for the right woman to have his first time with. He also explained that withholding his seed gives him superpowers and is using it to win Grammys.
I feel dirty! I put a virgin at the top of my freebie list!
Obviously, Hayley wasn't going to pursue the weekend for anything serious. She just wanted to have a little fun before going back to Jeff. And although this is really weird for most couples, myself included, as there's no way I'd let my husband ever do this ever, but the fact that Jeff was so on board, it just shows how compatible they truly are.
What's it gonna take for you to nail my wife?
Hayley and Jeff are still a couple today, and they probably will remain together if this season 14 flash forward is anything to go by. In No Weddings and a Funeral, set 15 years into the future, they have a whopping 6 kids, and all of them seem to be very happy and healthy, except for Noah.
I pulled the skeleton out all by myself.
Seeing this once rebellious, free-spirit feminist woman now looking like a suburban woman with high-waisted jeans and a giant family is very, very odd. It just doesn't seem like her, and she seems to have lost that spark and fire. But I guess it could be argued that it's realistic and teens eventually grow up and your priorities change. This is just one of several possible futures for her. So who knows, she could still be that anti-conformist hippie chick in another life. And phew, we finally come to the end of the video, and this has to be one of my longest videos I've ever done, and I really hope you enjoyed it. Do let me know whose love life you'd like to see next, and yeah, I'll see you in the next one.